Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharron Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode. My guest today is a scientist by training, an artist at heart, a wellness seeker by instinct, and a trailblazer in the field of precision medicine. Her journey from academia to industry is a testament to her relentless curiosity and passion for innovation. Together, we delve into her inspiring career path, her insights on leadership, her passion for mentoring others, and her vision for the future of medicine. And whether you're an aspiring scientist or a seasoned professional, her story is sure to inspire and enlighten. So please welcome Senior Director of Precision Medicine at Kura Oncology, Mini Manchanda. Mini, hello.
Hi, Sharron.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How have you been?
Excellent. I'm doing very well indeed.
Happy Friday.
Now, where am I speaking to you from? Because I know you're in a different time zone, aren't you? Where are you?
Yes, I'm based in San Diego, California.
One of my favorite places, San Diego. I've said it so many times on this show that I think people are a bit bored with that now, but it is definitely one of my most favorite places. So thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. And tell me about your start. How did it all start for you?
First of all, thank you, Sharron, for having me. I've been a big fan of your podcast. You've had such esteemed guest on your podcast, so I feel really honored to be here. When I was preparing to come here, I was reflecting on my own journey. And as I reflect back how it all started, so the question was like, how did I land into the field of biology? It felt like none of this was planned, but yet it all fell in place. And now I can't see this unfolding any other way. Like this was such a logical progression, but there were moments in my story when I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like showing up. So path unfolded as I started walking on it, is how I would put it. I would be really surprised if somebody thought at like 8 years or 10 years of age, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to plan everything. And it fell in place. Anybody telling that story was either very lucky, very clear. I wasn't one of them. I remember.
I think most of us aren't, actually, are we? I mean, I had dreams at 5 to be a Broadway star and be best friends with Barbara Streisand, and none of which has happened. But one of my dreams was to come to New York, so I did make that happen. But I think that that whole linear path, somebody has to be so focused to actually make that. And I don't know what they may miss along the way, being so focused on A to Z, where that journey is going to be. And that obviously wasn't you. So tell me what your journey was.
Yeah, so the first decade of my life, I think I spent being very quiet and observant. So I was just observing. And from the very beginning, one thing that has fascinated me was questions being like, why do we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 nose? Or why is our placement of our body that way? So I would question, but I wasn't seeking answer. I was just enjoying my curiosity and my amusement. In fact, I felt like if I got the answers, it would put a lid on that box of my question.
Disappoint you.
Today, I enjoy that space of being a beginner, being a learner, being curious, asking questions, and then navigating the space of answers on the way. But I enjoy the curiosity and the observation part a bit more. And the education system, I think it has changed a lot now. I can say that it's the current scenario. But back then, it was very template oriented, very bookish, if I might say that. And I found that very constraining. I didn't really enjoy many subjects like maths and numbers and physics were not my cup of tea.
Oh,
and
me
biology, too. Yeah, right. Like that And I would lean more towards creativity, like art and music classes were where I was. And that's where my art abilities and all those developed as well. But that always was my inclination. But biology, when I stumbled that in my like middle or high school, I'm like, that sounds like a storybook. That has the answers. I was like, so I really enjoyed it. It was very intuitively, it came to me, and it didn't feel like effort when I was in a biology class. It felt like I was discovering more about what I was observing in my childhood. Biology kind of like felt effortless and a state of flow there as well. So that's how I got into the biological sciences in my early school days and my college. But in India, or maybe it was in the early decades, the case all over the world, that if you are go for biology or if you go for maths, and you can either be a doctor or an engineer, and then other professions were not as defined. I feel like kids today have so much luxury to be whatever they want. There are so many options and non-traditional paths of career that are available, which is super exciting. It can be confusing to navigate just the amount of options and how there is no parental societal pressure to be one and fit into a box. But at that point, me opting for biological sciences did put me on the going in for a medical degree path, which didn't quite pan out. And honestly, my heart was not in it. So probably I didn't give my 100% either. But that did bring me to the classical biological sciences in my undergrad level, where I did zoology. And then in my master's, there was this amazing program, interdisciplinary program of biomedical sciences that I was able to crack through. It was a very competitive exam to get into that program, which I was. And that opened the door because we studied everything under the sun that biology can encompass, from like biochemistry, toxicology, pharmacology, genetics. And it was just a preview of what I felt was this vast expanse of knowledge. So even after master's, I just felt like I got to see only a tip of the iceberg, and there's so much more to do. So I didn't rush into getting a job. It was also a privilege that I could go for additional studies. So that was the privilege I was had that I'm very grateful for. So it was pretty clear that I want to learn more and do more research, and was inclined towards biology as a field. The research scene back in India, that was still developing. The funding opportunities were not as much. There were some really top tier labs that and the investigators I got to know and work with in my summer internships and my research fellow year that I did at International Center of Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology in New Delhi, India. I met some top tier scientists there who were publishing in these high profile journals, but it still felt like the research scene was a bit not as expansive. So in my further decision on what I need to do, it was pretty clear that I have to go for my grad school, get a PhD. And that was exciting. And that's when I started looking for options outside India, to my parents' horror. They're like, what is she up to? Where is she going packing her bags? But
why are you not in medical school? Why have you not married a doctor?
I know. In fact, that medical school path not working out was my first taste of, how a failure or like identity crisis, where I'm like, I didn't become that. So what does that mean? So at that young age, that I did struggle with that kind of experience because I wasn't really equipped to how to deal with it. And then I just went under the radar and enjoyed my college life to the fullest, developed a lot of soft skills and extracurricular activities and dramatics and art. So I indulged a lot, which helped me develop my personality. And realized later that that path not working out didn't really, it just pivoted me to another direction, which was equally wonderful from a career point of choice.
And was that sorry to interrupt you, but I just really, that sense of, that hasn't worked out, maybe you say your first sort of taste of failure there. Do you see that very much as a cultural thing as to what parental expectations are, that you kind of feel that feeling of failure even more so because it's like I've just like let the family down, that I'm now not going to be a doctor?
Yeah, interestingly, my family was very supportive and there was no pressure. I think it was the societal conditioning and the education system, which kind of defined from a very early on, like around the age of 15 and 16, that this is the path, this is your choice, so that's what it translates into. It was a very linear, right? like point A to point B paths. That was just how we all were conditioned to believe in. And then I was in that play space where I was like, all right, what's next? Now we have 24 subjects. Where we go next? So it brought a
Let's
lot
have
of
some
curiosity.
fun.
And one other piece I think that played into my journey is like throughout my childhood, my dad was in a bank. So we moved cities. And so I got accustomed to changes and pivoting and adaptability, resilience in new environment very early on in my life. And I think till date, that plays into the way I operate and to my psyche. I actually now seek change. When we bought the house and we were signing a mortgage for 30 years, that was freaking me out that we have to be in one place for 30 years. Is that what it means? So I'm always seeking for change or new experiences and new choices. And it's just how I've grown up.
Okay. So what led your path into from academia to go into industry? What was
Right.
at that point, what was that defining factor that you did that?
Yeah, so that actually came early on in my grad school as well when I was doing my PhD. So I'd made the transition to a new country, I'd settled down. I had joined this one amazing lab of Dr. Morris Swanson at University of Florida, who was doing cutting edge genomic research on this neuromuscular disease called myotonic dystrophy. And I was involved in creating this first mouse model for this disease, which didn't exist before in the field, which was used for biomarker discovery and drug candidates. We also discovered a novel function of the protein of our interest that we were researching on. So a lot of these basic research made me interested in how do we go from a mouse model to patients? Like, what is that journey? And that's where the whole idea about working in the industry came up, because now we were going from classical sciences to this whole network of systems biology based in genomics. At that point, human genome projects had been discovered in the early 2000s. So in my grad school around like 2010, 2014, technologies from Illumina platforms were like really coming up, and technologies were getting better and cheaper. So mixed with the application part of science and these deep sequencing technology knowledge that I'd gained in my PhD, that's what I was then inching closer towards the application side of biology and science, which I felt would make me closer in the industry rather than in the traditional academia route. So that's how I transitioned, started like preparing for it right from the middle of my grad school to look at the industry positions and what skills are required. I think somewhere I knew that I need to get into the industry to have more application from bench to bedside sort of application of the science that I was interested in. But there was a challenge there. I was here in University of Florida. There weren't many biotech industry. There were some on the suburbs, which I did my internships and summer programs in, not a quite hall. So how do you make your way or foot in the door in the industry when there is no network, there's no contacts, you don't know people? And at that point, I discovered the power of LinkedIn. I learned how to reach out to people, make those cold calls, look up their profiles, what their journey has been. That's how you build your network. That's how you learn. That's how you come out of your shell and see what's out there. And that's how I got my first break into industry at Thermo Fisher.
Okay. And you spent, was it 5 years at Thermo Fisher?
I was there for 5 years.
5 years or so. And
I went to AstraZeneca after
oh,
Thermo
just
Fisher.
slightly bigger then. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it was a different ball game. So Thermo Fisher, I had amazing time at Thermo Fisher. I worked with some really interesting people. I met my coaches, my mentors in Thermo Fisher. When I first started in Thermo Fisher, I was working in this really cool group where I made my lifelong friends too, where we were working on designing these personalized genomic tests for population scale based program. One of the programs we worked was Saudi Human Genome Project, where we were working with these government funded population based screening. We were trying to identify genetic drivers. And that's where I understood the power of personalized medicine, precision medicine, that now we are not talking about population averages. We are talking about individual metrics. And that was really fascinating time. But what that also meant that now we were running into the regulatory frameworks before we can test patients on these assays. And Thermo gave me that breeding ground to learn about the diagnostic development, learn more about how FDA frameworks operate, how we get assay from conception to regulatory approvals before the patient testing can occur, and how the device and diagnostics are then incorporated into the clinical trials, how the trials that are now being orchestrated are not all comers for many of the indications. Now, these are smart trials which are biomarker driven, precision medicine focused, where we are talking about one size doesn't fit all. We need to look at the individuals to see what's going on in their biology before we can prescribe them any drug. So I was working on the diagnostic side, and at AstraZeneca, I got the opportunity to work on the drug development and lead the precision medicine strategy for many of their late stage trials, not in just US. We were working in global markets now in Europe, in China, in Japan. So I got to learn a lot of the clinical development and regulatory frameworks across the globe in the precision medicine space.
Excellent. Okay. So you've kind of really, again, consciously, but not necessarily consciously, covering all the bases as you're going through your career with very much that end goal. I know your passion is that precision medicine, which is where you are currently. You're at Kura Oncology.
We have been growing at a very fast pace in recent times. We are a close to 300 people company now. It's a decade-year-old company, and our leader, Troy Wilson, has just been a trailblazer. So it's been really exciting time at Kura. And that transition from a bigger pharma like AstraZeneca to a mid-sized biotech company like Kura has been very amazing and learning experience as well as I have progressed in this role. There are many hats I wear here. AstraZeneca has an army of people what we do, and over here the team is small but very mighty. So there has been some transitions and learning curves from that transition as well.
I was going to ask you that because there is a very big difference, and you've kind of covered it for me in that, AstraZeneca, it's like there's people everywhere ready to jump in and do things. Yeah. When you get into a mid-sized bio like Kura, you do have to wear those hats, and it is very much, there is nobody to do it but you, which is fantastic if you are that type of person that really looks to grow in their role, because you have no alternative but to do so. You have to grow, don't you, really?
Absolutely. And I think the other theme that has emerged in my journey is about leadership, right? When I was starting young and we used to look at leaders who are like sitting on a seat of power and wearing power suits, and it was intimidating to walk into their offices and strike a conversation. But now that I am here in similar positions, I see leadership very different from this vantage point. It's not about power, or it's a privilege. It's more about creating space for others to grow and give the opportunities, and see the team as like all hands on the deck, including me, and we all are working towards a purpose which is bigger than all of us, right? We are working for patients and getting them the best treatment at the right time. So there is that sense of purpose that has come into leadership now that I am getting those opportunities, and more so when you're working in a smaller organization and you have access to our fearless leaders. You're seeing them more close up and personal, and see how those strategic decisions are being taken. There is that layer of purpose that gets added to it being like a career or a resume bullet point, which is actually just a toolkit that doesn't define you as a leader or doesn't define your identity.
I meet lots of leaders in the space, and the word leader is can mean anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the person behind who is that leader and how they react, how they perform. And that is what develops the culture of a company and how it moves forward. Those people and companies that I've seen really make headway, the leadership is exactly as you've described for Kura. They see their purpose as to clearing all the other stuff that needs to be done to allow people like you to do your job and shine and move forward. And, they're very much rolling up their sleeves and taking part of it. So that's a very fortunate part of being part of a company with the right culture behind it. And I think certainly for you, as you continue your career, that is something you'll take with you as to what type of leader you want to be from what you've seen.
Absolutely. Yes. I think there is a common theme to it all. It's leaders, and they're like, as you said, they're more like facilitators, and we are removing the roadblock to ultimately achieve what we all set out to achieve.
Yep.
And there is curiosity, there is courage, but there is compassion.
Yeah.
You don't need to be hard as a leader. You can still lead with softness. And I think that's how women have the advantage there, just because of our inherent compassion, nurturing nature there. So feel really fortunate about that.
Excellent. So talk to me about the work that you're doing, because I know that's what you were itching to do. You're the Senior Director of Precision Medicine. So school me, what is precision medicine?
This has been my passion, and as I said, it has evolved over time. But if I have to break it down, like let's think about an analogy, like the entire population have to wear the same power of glasses that we are wearing, or the same size shoes, or the same size clothes. How uncomfortable would it be for some over the other? It might fit for some, and they might be able to see clear and walk easily, but others would be in very much discomfort, right? So that's exactly how precision medicine. So you walk into a doctor's office and somebody has this either a severe disease, rare disease, and all of them are prescribed one drug, same drug. We don't know. It's a hidden trial at that point. It may stick or it might not, and they might be exposed to a lot of adverse effects and toxicity and side effects. So what precision medicine is doing is leveraging the power of technology, so power of individuals' genome, the DNA, their biochemistry, their lifestyle, their personal biomarker results like the lab results, and then seeing what's going on in each individual. Based on that, they are being prescribed drugs now. So it's not hidden trial. It's a very tailored approach driven by genomics and proteomics and now AI as we move into the future, which is transforming the way care is given to people with diseases. So that's where what I do in day-to-day basis. So Kura Oncology and companies like AstraZeneca, they're making these very impactful drugs to treat indications like lung cancer, mainly in oncology is where I have my expertise so far, where we're developing these drugs and all the biomarker, the trials are becoming precision medicine where you are identifying patients' genetic signatures, their proteomic signature, and then bringing them into the trial with the hope that the trials are more efficient. The right patients are being matched with the right drug at the right time. We are reducing the toxicity and the burden on the patients. The trials are more adaptable because you are then monitoring the patients in the real time so you can change their doses up and down. And where I come in, I lead the development of these diagnostic tests and discover these biomarkers based on which patients can be identified and matched with the right trial. So that's the field I am currently, and this is what is called precision medicine or personalized medicines. And it's called precision because if you can precisely measure what's going on in the individual, you can precisely treat them as well and not just, glow in the dark sort of strategy.
That makes sense. When we've spoken before, you've talked to me about precision medicine and your passion for precision health. Is there a difference, or is it just a different word for the same thing?
I see precision medicine under the umbrella of precision health, because if you think about healthcare and medicine, that's just treating the people who are sick. We still don't know how they got there. So there is this whole journey from healthy individuals to people who land up in clinic with these devastating diseases. So precision health is taking the core principles of precision medicine, where you're looking at an individual and their genetic makeup, their lifestyles, their environment, and then moving up in the journey when they're healthy to carve out approaches and give them lifestyle-based nutrition, fitness. For example, somebody doesn't have a diabetes yet, but you can assess the risk factor based on their genetics, their lifestyle, the nutrition, their blood-based biomarkers, what's going on, and if they're at an increased risk of diabetes. And you can start giving them these tailored approaches right up front so that they don't even get diabetes.
Right.
So that's what precision health is. It's optimizing your health while you're healthy, and that way you don't land up in the precision medicine bucket, but now you are on the race for longevity and living the healthy life and being the best version of yourself. And what it's doing in the process is now your patient is not just an N in your trial. It's just not like a number in your trial. The patient is now not even a patient. Now a healthy individual is a data partner. They can themselves look at their metrics. Even if they're healthy, they start monitoring what's the baseline for them. And from there, if any deviation is occurring, that's when they know, oh, the needle is moving in the direction where it should not, and they can optimize it or reverse it very early on, catch disease very early on. In fact, it's a reality now that, and we have a lot of programs, and I worked on one of this at AstraZeneca, where we were developing blood-based diagnostics for early cancer detection and screening. Grail is the company who is working on this cutting-edge technology. They already have a program in UK with the NHS, where they have done this population-based screening to detect cancer just at the risk level or even in the stage 1 and stage 2 before the cancer has metastasized and spread to the other parts. So there's a lot of this needle is moving towards the early detection, screening, and now in the longevity biohacker space, you are seeing people who are healthy people going in and getting their genetic screening done to see what their genes are, what the risk factors are for any particular disease. So I'm really excited about that space, about precision health and wearables, how the data from all the Oura rings and your Apple Watches are now integrating into your optimizing your health and longevity. And I think that's a natural progression as well, because there is only so much, if you see in the trials, the patient's span is extended by a year or 6 months, which is really valuable. But I think if we move the humanity where we lower the disease burden, it will take care of so much about the health, the financial burden, the emotional burden, the patient and the family and the caregivers go through. And then you're just creating this population who is healthy and can do more and achieve more and be on the best version that they are born to be. And I would put another layer to it, which is still very underdeveloped in the field, but we have not even talked or explored. I think there are some initial startups or initiatives which are working on integrating the Western medicine philosophy and the Eastern medicine philosophy. Coming from India, I know about this holistic program.
More holistic approach.
Integrated and functional medicine. These are like now mainstream. It's just in US, the healthcare and the insurance, all those players need to wake up to that reality about you can't just treat a liver. A liver could be connected to reproductive health, to your thyroid. So if there is a symptom in one part of the body, that's not working in isolation. Our body does not work that way. So how do you do the holistic treatment? And if you look at the Eastern philosophies of Chinese medicine or Indian medicinal ancient system of Ayurveda, there are thousands of years of work that exist. Those are not as organized as clinical trials or these FDA regulations or regulatory framework, but there are a lot of stuff that can be done and integrated if you're talking about a holistic health improvement. Coming from India and knowing these Ayurvedic principles and hacks, even while we were growing up as in childhood, this is very ingrained into my day-to-day lifestyle, and I'm just very excited to see how the field merges and how we harmonize our Western medicine philosophies with the ancient wisdom-based Eastern medicine philosophies to go from here. So I think
it's a challenging thing to do, though, isn't it? Particularly in oncology, particularly with cancer. I literally only today, I read an article, a very famous supermodel, whose name, of course, escapes me just when I need it, was diagnosed with breast cancer. She chose not to take the chemo, radiation, mastectomy route that she was advised to do. and put a lot of focus on holistic medicine, and has just announced that she's 7 years in remission, which is incredible. If you have Western medicine saying, you must have chemo, you must have, otherwise it's going to kill you. And then there is another alternative. So it's kind of putting your faith in something that hasn't really been fully trialed. What impact with the work that you're doing, the genomics and the precision medicine, to actually almost give validity to that point? Is that something that you could get that fact?
Absolutely. That's exactly where my mind space is currently. I think this can be unpacked in so many ways. Cancer is a very debilitating and devastating disease, and especially if somebody has progressed to a 3 or a 4, I would suggest them to stick with the medical guidance to get the optimal results. A lot of these other Eastern medicines, they are preventative in nature and not curative, because they are working with these natural herbs and remedies, which takes a lot more time. The doses are not that optimized. They're not being controlled phase trials that have been executed. And I think that's definitely a gap to bring them more mainstream. But these philosophies work in rare conditions in early stages or preventative in nature. But I am also a believer, and maybe this is to do with my own upbringing and journey, that every time there is a disease that is manifested in the physical form, there is an energy component to it, there is an emotional component to it. So, and faith, it definitely plays a big role, right? Like mind over matter sort of philosophy. At the end, I think it comes down to individuals' choice and their faith and the belief because that's really important. Going through a treatment without not believing or being skeptical or doubting every point and not believing the experts also would not work. Your health, your emotional health, your mental health, your physical health, everything, your spiritual health, everything needs to integrate to move the needle if somebody's at that spectrum of the disease. But there's a lot more work to be done. As you said, it's not going to be easy. I am just passionate about seeing if I can play a role in bridging that gap somehow. I don't know how it will happen, but I do believe that that would be a very effective solution, especially for like a general mass population based. And we're already seeing that, right? The sound baths and the yogas and the holistic treatments, and people are maybe in the urban sectors more, and rural probably have all those practices in place already where they're more synced with their cycles and circadian rhythm. But I think post-COVID, I feel there has been this awareness has just like skyrocketed. My cousin, who is a creative head of an advertising company, calls me in COVID and he's like, I got an RT-PCR result and this is the value. It's this much above the cutoff. Do you think it's a false positive or a false negative? And I'm like, why did I even do my PhD? Like, you're speaking our language now.
It's that awareness. People are so aware of the markers and the things that they should be looking at and tracking, right?
Which is amazing. It makes me so happy. And that was like an aha moment. I'm like, we all have waken up to the power of data and looking at our own metrics and not just blindly trusting the system here. So that has been a revolution. And I think we are headed in the right direction. And I'm just excited to see if I get an opportunity to contribute in that space and do something about it.
So that brings me to my next point then. You are the Senior Director of Precision Medicine at Kura. Your career has progressed each step of the way. You've moved the needle. Your own needle has been moving in the right direction. Do you have a plan? Do you have a desire to be in the C-suite, to be that steerer of the ship, that person that is there for everybody else, but has the heavy burden on their shoulders? Is that in your plan?
My purpose is very clear from here on, as I just spoke about it. It's just about what purpose I get to, or problem I get to solve, and in what position and whatever title comes to it. I tell this to my mentees as well. I'm excited to see where my journey leads me. It, as you said, it has been linear one leading to that, but these are opportunities that have shown up, and I have shown up 100% for these. So it's gonna be interesting what happens from here on, and very excited to see. Life has not jaded me down, or so
Well,
still looking for.
thank the Lord. As long as you leave the TV off and don't watch the news, I've found that that's been particular.
I think 2016 was a turning point where I stopped listening to news.
Yes, yes, it's a very good time to have stopped. So, okay, I've got some quick questions for you now. And I think one of them you've already actually answered for me. What's one belief or mindset that's helped you through this journey that you've been on?
Say no to comfort.
Okay.
Get comfortable with the discomfort.
Okay. What's a piece of ancient or cultural wisdom that you live by?
All the answers are within. You just have to look for it.
Okay. So that's look inside yourself for the answers?
Yes. Go inward, then seeking outside validation or answers.
Right.
Everything
so avoid
is within
Google.
Us. Google is gonna disappear anyway, so beware of ChatGPT now.
I know, that's so old school for me. I still talk Google instead of the chat GPT. Okay. And really, for me, if a young woman scientist is listening or watching this podcast and feels unsure about what her next step will be, what would you say to her?
You are where you are supposed to be, and just bloom wherever you plant yourself. In fact, it's interesting we are recording this today. It's a really big day for me because Anne, my mentee who has been working for the past 1 year, she was in India and she's just passed her school and got admission to here. So I worked with her through identifying the right courses. She is boarding flight to come to US today. And I just spoke to her this morning. She is exhilarated, a bit anxious. She was born ready. I know that. I'm so fortunate. And my own mentor says this to me, but I said the same thing to her. I am so lucky to have the front row seat to see your journey unfold. But there will be moments of doubt, there will be moments of anxiety, but those will become your power. Everything is happening for a reason, and you are on the path that you're supposed to be. You just don't know that yet.
Yep.
So don't be scared. Don't let perfectionism become in the way of progression. Just show up, give your 100%, keep your passions alive, and you're more than just your resume or career. There is more to your identity than just this. If one doesn't think what work, we will find and we pivot and we optimize.
And I think that is so important. You make such a valid point there, and you've made it a couple of times about the resume being part of a toolkit. It isn't the be all and end all.
Mm-hmm.
And I, obviously coming from the UK, one of the biggest things that I found being in the US was people's obsession with what their job title was or needed to be for their next level. Yeah. And I get it. I understand the why, but I just sometimes wish people looked beyond that and looked for the satisfaction, looked for the what is the work? What is the job? What am I doing? Rather than what am I called?
Yeah.
Because it's not the reality of something, right?
And I think there has been a generational shift in that narrative too. Now just being one thing and doing one job can get very exhausting and limiting. Mm-hmm. The next generation, we're talking about Gen Z and Gen Alpha entering into the workforce, they are more purpose driven. They are more conscious driven in terms of their choices. So just having one identity is also not going to work anymore. So just drawing examples from my journey right now. So I consider myself as scientist by training, artist by instincts, and then wellness profession and seeking health as well. So there are multiple facets to a personality and not just one mini that exists. There are multiple versions of mini that's in there. And that's what life is about. Don't cage ourselves. We shouldn't cage ourselves into one thing and just tie our identity for that. If you lose, because now nothing is for certain, the way economy is going, if you lose that, you basically don't know who you yourself are,
Yeah.
and you don't have anything else, like having multiple income stream and multiple interests and multiple diversification should be the key. And why not, right? We have
Yep.
just one life. Be all that you can be and what you want to be.
Absolutely.
So there is much more to a person than just the title.
Yeah. And as you say, hopefully more and more people will see that. I certainly know that your mentees, because I know you do a lot of work from kids through to early career scientists that you mentor, and what you are instilling in those people will make them much more rounded, as opposed to just being sort of one-dimensional. This is how I'm defined, and as you say, gosh, if I lose that, then I'm done. So that's fantastic.
And just last word, and I think I've been fortunate to get those kind of mentors in my life. And the mentors don't come in one shape. They can vary from your friend and your spouse and your people and coaches that you meet on the way. And I've just been very fortunate. So I feel like my mentorship programs are more like paying forward. And we are stepping into the future, but these are the people who are going to lead the future. So we need to bring them along as well.
Yes, as quickly as possible if we can.
I know, please. And we can retire.
Absolutely. Come on through. Well, listen, thank you so much. I can't believe where the time has gone. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I just know you're going to do amazing things. And I plan to be in San Diego in February. So definitely let's make a plan to meet up, and maybe some of the other guests we can get those along as well. But it'll be lovely to catch up with you and see where you're at by the beginning of next year, and share your increasing knowledge of precision medicine with me. That was a fantastic analogy, by the way. That's like boom, really stuck in my head. So
definitely not my original, but
it worked for me. So that's the main thing. So have a fantastic weekend. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharron. This was fantastic. I almost forgot we are not over a coffee chat, but a podcast.
That's how I live my life, Mini.
Brilliant idea, by the way.
Good to talk
thank
to you.
You so much. Yeah, I'll talk to you and see you in February.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Take good care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.